Tell us about this latest specific incident with the Banditos.
Yeah, this dates back to September of last year, where there was a party to celebrate a group of young deputies who were assigned to the East Los Angeles station. They were celebrating finishing a probationary training period and sort of entering the full-fledged ranks. It was a sanctioned event. The captain of the station had signed off on it. There were designated drivers assigned so that the deputies could let loose a bit that night. It was at a venue close to the station. But at some point in the night, a group of older deputies showed up, and it cast a more tense feeling over the night for at least some of the younger deputies. Late in the night, one of them went out into the parking lot, and a group followed, and a brawl ensued. And that was sort of the culmination, according to these claims that have been filed by a group of young deputies, that was the culmination of months of intimidation tactics and harassment by an older group of deputies that are alleged to be part of this clique or gang, to use the word that the attorneys in this case are using, in which they focus on targeting younger Latino deputies in the station and really giving them a hard time.
But this is beyond hazing, isn't it? This is violent, and they're trying to silence them as well.
In general, the allegations are more that these are younger deputies that are expected to work overtime and not put in for the pay. That they get harassed by being sent out on calls much more frequently than other deputies, and then if it's a dangerous call, that perhaps they won't receive the backup that they need. So it can turn ugly very, very easily.
The Banditos are not the first alleged gang within the LA County Sheriff's Department, and this is not the first time that they have been called up on charges. Give us a little bit of history about these different cliques.
Sure. Well, specifically to the Banditos, it's not a new name in the discussion of these cliques in the sheriff's department. Back in 2014, a female deputy in East LA Station filed a lawsuit alleging sexual harassment in workplace, just a very hostile workplace environment.
Sexual favors. She was supposed to call her training officer daddy. I mean, it was bizarre and aggressive.
Yes, she made some very serious allegations, saying that there was a group of about 80 deputies who were part of this clique, and we should say that this clique and others in the department are often identified by, they all get matching tattoos. The Banditos allegedly have tattoos of a skeleton head with a sombrero and a pistol. And so she made these allegations and settled with the department for $1.5 million. And so that is just one of many cliques that we've heard about over the years.
There was the 3,000 in the men's central jail, right, who supposedly got credit for breaking an inmate's bones. A federal judge 30 years ago said that there was a neo-Nazi white supremacist group operating. What's going on in the sheriff's department?
This is an issue that is, you hear stories of similar groups, fraternities or cliques in other departments around the country, but I think nowhere else like the sheriff's department here in Los Angeles, where it's been such an intractable problem going back, as you said, decades, and with so many different examples, and not in one part of the county, but all over. We have a case currently in Compton with similar allegations of deputies getting matching tattoos, and you mentioned the 3,000 boys that were working in the jails, and it's come up over and over and over again, and at times they've tried to address it, but have just been unable to really deal with it effectively.
I'm curious how Sheriff Alex Villanueva is going to handle it. I mean, he's been trying to roll back reforms that were put in place by Sheriff McDonnell after the Lee Baca years.
Right, well, you touched on a lot of issues there. We have the Lee Baca years when a lot of these problems were thought to be festering and allowed to really take root when he was not addressing them effectively. And then you have Sheriff McDonald, who came in after Baca and really tried to implement some reforms to address this particular issue, but just really address the lack of safety guards that were in place to curb abuses by deputies. And now you have a new sheriff who has come in and has really been seen as somebody who has taken a approach that is sympathetic to the rank and file, and critics have said is rolling back these reforms that were meant to guard against abuses like this. He has said he has no patience for hazing and no patience for these types of problems, but at the same time, he has tried to say that the blame really rests on the leadership, on the captains and above, and faulted previous administrations for not doing more. So we'll see how he goes about it.
And the price will be paid by the taxpayers because there will be lawsuits with all. Quickly, what's next?
It's a precursor to a lawsuit or lawsuits. What we wrote about was 7 deputies who claim to have been victims of this group coming forward and making a claim with the county, saying this has happened, you guys are at fault, and they're blaming the county and the sheriff's department for not doing more to protect them from this hostile work environment. We also are told, although this has not been confirmed, that the sheriff's department's internal criminal investigation unit is looking at the deputies who are alleged to have been involved in this brawl for possible criminal charges.
All right, Joel, well, keep us abreast of all developments and do come back.
Thanks for having me.
The 3 deputies and sergeant accused of beating up the younger officers were placed on paid administrative leave. The LA Times reached out to the men. They couldn't be reached for comment. The sheriff's department didn't respond to questions about the deputies' current work status.